Thanks so much for taking time out of your days and joining us today. I'm Shirlee Howe with Children First. We're a child advocacy nonprofit. We represent Southeastern Pennsylvania, and we're here today to kick off the 30 Classrooms in 30 Days social media campaign to highlight the staffing crisis in the early learning sector. In March 2022, a survey of providers, of Delaware County providers, 100% of respondents reported staffing shortages. Because providers cannot attract and retain staff, 1,500 Delaware County children are not able to attend publicly funded childcare and are losing precious early learning time as a result. Empty classrooms mean lost opportunities for our children and their families as we recover from the pandemic and parents of young children struggle to remain in the workforce or in the process of re-entering it, particularly mothers. Childcare providers are the workforce behind the workforce, and we must address the staffing challenges in the sector now so that families can work to support their children and children can receive the benefits of high quality learning environments. In order to do that, Children First and our statewide partners are advocating for a $115 million wage supplemental this budget season to increase the hourly wage of child care workers by $2 an hour. It's long past due. We have the money, and we cannot let this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to raise the wage of child care workers pass us by. There's too much on the line. Thank you to all the speakers here today who have joined us in this effort and will continue to fight for kids. Thanks so much. I'd now like to introduce Rinn. Thank her for her hospitality today to have us here at Today's Child and Sharon. She's the Director of Operations and Business Development at Today's Child, and I'll pass it over to her. Thanks so much.
Like Shirlee said, my name is Erinn. I've actually been at Today's Child Learning Centers for a little over 10 years. Prior to March 2020, our business was growing and expanding because of the needs of working families. At that time, we had 15 locations serving over 1,000 children. Today, we only operate 9 locations serving over 600 children. The staffing crisis has affected the way we operate the programs each day. When the telephone rings and a parent wants to enroll, the first response is no longer, when do you want to enroll? It has become, let me check and see if I have a spot available. This is due directly to the fact that we can't hire enough staff members to cover the enrollment needs. Many of our staff did not return to work when we opened our doors after the forced shutdown in 2020. But in the last year, we have seen our staff leaving the childcare field completely for higher paying jobs in different industries. This past year, we've increased our starting salary by $5 an hour. And we've added education bonuses and new hire bonuses to every advertisement and recruiting effort and are still short-staffed. We currently have, in our 9 different locations, we have 18 different teaching positions open and needed right now. We used to have a floater and a backup staff member so that if a staff member called out, I had someone to replace them for the day. In these current times, myself and other admin and directors have been filling in for staff that needs a day off or has a vacation. Based on the capacities of all of my locations, I could serve 200 more children if I could hire enough staff. And the problem is not only finding a person, it's finding a highly qualified, trained individual. The services that we provide include education and learning. Children with developmental delays and special needs are coming in the door more frequently. We need staff that have an early childhood education background to identify children with developmental delays and be able to handle the challenging behaviors appropriately. These are not skills that come easily to individuals without proper experience and training, and those educated and experienced staff are what make our program a high-quality program. The highly qualified teachers are the reason that the children in the pre-K programs have significantly better outcomes, have higher high school graduation rates, are much less likely to get arrested, to go on welfare, or be unemployed as adults. And they also earn significantly more, according to a lot of research and studies. The highly qualified teachers are an important piece in this successful outcome. The job is a difficult one, and after an exhausting day on the job with less responsibilities and a higher pay is very attractive to our teachers, even if it's outside of their field. In order to attract staff, I need to be able to pay them higher salaries and offer benefits. However, we're also in a position where parents are struggling to make ends meet with gas prices rising and inflation. Increasing our tuition will only hurt these families more. We need the funds to pay higher salaries from a source other than parents. Without attracting and retaining these teachers, we are going to see a generation of children that don't have the advantages of pre-K and will be less successful in school and in life, and so hurting our community as a whole. I'd like to introduce Miss G, the director of our center here in Sharon Hill, who has a lot of experience as a teacher and just recently became a director, so understands the challenges that we're currently facing.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. My name is Gaitrie. I've been in childcare for over 20 years, 10 years in South America and 10 years here in Philadelphia. I have some knowledge of the importance of adequate staffing in the school. I'm currently training as a director at today's child here at the Sharon Hill location. I've been in operation, which has been in operation for 30 years and served over 110 children and has a capacity of 120 children. Since COVID hit in 2020, the world around us has changed in numerous ways. As a child care worker, we have noticed an increase in frustration and challenges which we are not equipped and expected to handle. Which we are currently experiencing the crisis right now in our state and in our center. The state of Pennsylvania has recorded 91% of child care center has a shortage of staffed room. In Delaware County alone, 100% of the child care center report having staffing issues and shortage. To be in child care, it's our duty to fulfill the appropriate ratio and number to the different age groups. In our baby room, our young toddler room, and our infant toddler program, we're supposed to have 1 teacher for 4 babies. In our pre-K room and pre-K count classroom, we're supposed to have 1 teacher for 10 students. And in our school age, teachers are expected to have one teacher to 12 students. Unfortunately, for the past few months, we have been experiencing abundance of students and not enough teachers for the classrooms. We're having a challenging time hiring teachers to the classrooms. Due to the shortage, childcare centers are unable to accept new applicants or are forced to close classrooms and do not have the appropriate staffing. There are over 32,000 children on childcare waiting list in the state of Pennsylvania alone. And 1,500 of those children are on the waiting list right here in Delaware County. And right now in our center, we have a long list and parents are calling us every day for care. So how do we address this teacher crisis and shortage in our childcare staff setting? Teachers are stretched thin and overworked and complain every day about being stressed over their daily duties in the classroom. One thing we can do as teachers offer compensation. One thing we can do as offer teachers compensation that reflect their duties and responsibilities they face in the classroom. Thank you.
So much. I'd like to introduce Rafi. We've known each other for many years, advocating on behalf of kids for Children First. He's currently on our board. He is also a parent and a lifelong resident of Delaware County. Thanks, Rafi.
How you doing? Hi, everybody. Actually, I grew up in Philadelphia, we learn a lot through our travels. Speaking of travels, when I was coming here this morning, I drove by some of the baseball fields that I used to play on in Little League Baseball, and it just reminded me of way back. I was 12 years old. I was playing Gaitrie Little League Baseball, I was pretty good, right? I was a pitcher. I was a center fielder. I had a rocket arm. So on Flag Day, Gaitrie would play, slams down, all the, we would play Little League Baseball, and I was the starting pitcher, and this was the very first game my mom was ever able to come to. Single mom, 4 boys. It was a Saturday, so she was able to get up after working doubles all week and come to watch us play baseball. And my very first pitch, I hit the batter right in the ear with the pitch. And it started the game off on the wrong foot, right? And the rest of the game, I'm probably the best player in Delaware County at that time. The rest of the game, I struck out 3 times. They put me in center field. I missed a pop-up. So I say all that to say the beginning often sets the tone of what the rest of the story looks like. My whole day was jacked up. The first game that my mom and my brothers were able to see, and how it started, absolutely messed up. Yesterday, I was talking to one of our kindergarten teachers at Evans Elementary, just to get an idea of how it's going since the return from COVID. So I asked her, we're very long friends, we graduated high school together. I asked her, how many on day one, how many students are day one ready? She said, probably years ago, we probably had 2 to 5 that weren't day one ready, who had never benefited from a quality pre-K. Now, this year, almost half of her class has not benefited from a quality pre-K. Just 22 students in her class. That blows my mind. That absolutely blows my mind to be able to think that now, all your work is, we're going to sit down, this is how we sit down, this is how we stand in line, any order, day one ready. And I also asked her, how long does it generally take for your students to get day one ready who didn't benefit from a quality pre-K? She said, well, usually after the holidays. Talk about setbacks, right? Let's talk about setbacks when we start off on the wrong foot, how that stretches out to the rest of what this 3rd grade then look like, right, Erinn? Just like you said, what does it look like when the student is in middle school, when they're getting ready for college? You almost never, and I'm sure there's some great stories, but you almost never make that gap back up. That's why you being here where all the magic happens in these rooms, you are the bread and butter of what the future of the community looks like. And you know that. Right, and I, as I look at in all of your eyes, you know that when you go home, that the effort and the energy that you put into each day was so super important, and how that looks for the community going forward. I was a school board member for a number of years. I was a borough councilman for a number of years. I see what that looks like down the road. I see what it looks like when we look at crime. When I was on the William Penn School Board, our special ed budget had a $7 million hole in it. How do we make that up? Taxes, right? We have high taxes, right? I mean, does anybody have low taxes in the building? No, right? So that's the only way. You think of all the other things that are much more expensive. Gas, formula, interest rates, mortgage, and now you have to maybe increase taxes to close that special ed hole. If more students were able to benefit from quality pre-K, school districts wouldn't have to spend so much money on revisiting some of those skills that they're missing out by not being in this building. So we have to make sure, what was that number, 1,500 at least, and it's probably a multiple of that, are sitting on a waiting list right now. So let's talk about the household impact real quick too. During the pandemic, so many households, and you see it, had to make the gut-wrenching decision to not enter their child in pre-K. So in their rationalization, which, look, you gotta lead your household, right? In the rationalization, it's let me leave the workforce because it's easier and cheaper to not work and to be home with the babies. But what's happening? They're not getting the value of all the experience that's sitting here in this room. And multiply that times the number of households in Delaware County. Multiply that by the number of, just even in the direct community. That's community changing right there. So if we can band together to make sure that we speak out for those voices that aren't able to speak out. You were talking about one of the coalitions that you're on. That's the exact way to do it. That's the exact way, teaming up with a great coalition, a statewide, a regional coalition to magnify your voices, because those voices are really, really important. And I know Shirley's probably going to touch on it in a little bit too, but engaging with your local elected officials, engaging with your state rep, being able to pick up the phone and say, you don't have to, they don't know your story. They don't know what you're experiencing right here in the building. And you don't have to go into super detail. You don't have to be super emotional about it, but they don't know what's going on. So to be able to pick up and say, hey, we're losing staffing. We're having to turn folks away. How can you help us out? They're willing to do it, and you got to keep them engaged. Thank you so much. And Rebecca Perry is going to talk to you a little bit more. Thank you so much, guys.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So my name is Rebecca Perry. I am a Southeast Delco School Board member. I am a farm to school educator, and I am also a parent. And so today I've actually come to speak to you not as a school board director, but as a working mother. I carried a lot of guilt as a young working mom. My child, who is now a sophomore in high school, attended in-home daycares and child care centers for 10 to 12 hours per day, starting at only 10 weeks old, so that I could have time to travel to work and to also work more than 9 hours a day. I moved to Southeast Delco School District when my son was only 2 years old. New to the area and unfamiliar with the public school system here, I didn't realize that the school district did not provide a pre-K or preschool option for children. Growing up in Montgomery County, my school district did. Luckily at the time, there were many options available in my local community for my son to attend a quality preschool or pre-K program, but that was 2010. My son started attending Today's Child for pre-K in September 2010. We took advantage of early registration in our school district for kindergarten, and we registered him in March of 2011. He still had 3 months to complete of his pre-K year. But at that time, he still scored high in mathematic comprehension and was reading at a 3rd grade reading level. He showed high levels of, and his communication skills with both adults and children were clear and confident. He showed high levels of achievement in all of the developmental domains: cognitive, language, physical, and even social emotional. It was obvious that he had picked up many skills in pre-K that prepared him to start school. By 1st grade, he was referred by his teacher to be evaluated as mentally gifted. He scored well above the required intelligence quotient and started receiving gifted support in the beginning of 2nd grade. 9 years later, he is still a successful student, excelling academically in math and science, but he is also successful in many other areas that I know started in early childhood education. He is well-rounded, to say the least. A multi-sport athlete, a trombone player, a community volunteer, and an amazing friend to his peers. He still shows high levels of achievement in all of those developmental domains. My son will be 16 years old this summer. We reminisce quite often on his year in pre-K. He still speaks of his experiences with Miss Cameron and Miss Devon. He remembers choosing to sit with Miss Cameron instead of his own mom after their holiday show that they performed for parents. He visited Miss Devon for years after graduating pre-K, and he even kept a pair of rain boots that she lended to him for years, even after he outgrew them. He even formed a lasting friendship with Miss Devon's daughter, and his pre-K class picture still hangs in our home. Many years after he attended pre-K, I started working at Today's Child. As I joined the early childhood education field, I was appalled and shocked to find out how little child care workers make. Saddened to find out how many people view child care workers as just a type of glorified babysitter and not as teachers. My teenage son reminds me often to say hello to my now co-workers who were once his educators. Many of his core memories include his time with his early childhood education teachers. I believe it takes a village to raise a child, and as I have watched him grow over the years, I realize that even though they cared for him many years ago, they will always be part of my village. They helped make him who he is and who he is still becoming. But they weren't paid a wage that was equal to what they poured into my child. I became a mother at just 21 years old. I would not have been able to return to work without childcare options where I felt my child was loved and cared for. I could not imagine having to raise an infant, toddler, or a preschool age child in the time we are in right now. With our country and our state still struggling to recover from the pandemic, we need more child care workers to be able to open more classrooms in our communities and downsize the long waiting lists for care. By fall 2021, more than 26,000 children in Pennsylvania were on waiting lists for child care. Parents cannot return to work if child care is not available, and our economy cannot recover without child care availability. Pennsylvania lost more than 4,000 child care workers from October 2019 till October 2021. That is an 8.5% decrease in only 2 years. Providers across Delaware County and across our state are struggling to bring back and recruit experienced workers and certified teachers because of the low wages in this industry. Providers cannot simply raise wages without passing on those costs to families through higher tuition rates. And we all know our families cannot afford that. As a parent, a community volunteer and member, a teacher, and now a Southeast Delco School Board member, I urge our local and state legislators, I urge our governor to invest in early childhood education and to invest in our early childhood education teachers. These teachers are helping to mold not only our future school students, but our future leaders, and they should be paid what they deserve. Their passion, love, and devotion to students should be praised and rewarded. They help us to take care of our families, and they need to be paid so that they can take care of their own. Our state legislature needs to provide funding for child care workers to receive wage supplements and a wage increase now. I urge all residents, teachers, and voters to contact their local leaders and their state representatives to demand that they invest in early childhood educators. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our speakers today for sharing your personal stories with us, your career paths in this field. It's so important to our children and our families, our community, our economy as we recover from the pandemic. I think Rebecca took the punchline of, this is a bipartisan issue. It's budget season. We have money from the federal government in ways that we haven't in past years. We need to invest in our workforce, our child care workforce, so that everybody else can get back to work and children can learn in supportive, loving environments that last a lifetime. So thanks so much to everyone who's here today.